Hello, guys. Welcome back to the We Have Issues podcast. Today, we want to talk about Polymarket, Kalshi, all the prediction markets, what kind of industry this is going to lead to, the ups and downsides to this, some of the more nefarious uses of these markets that can be utilized online. And so with that, I am Matt.
I'm Carvell.
And I'm Chris.
So yeah, what do you guys? I don't know. I'm very risk adverse, so I don't do a lot of investing. I don't put my money into unsure things. The stock market is scary enough, but once we start going on, to me, what are strange websites and putting money down on things that might happen, especially since the last few years have been really weird. So not too big on trying to bet on what's going to happen. What do you guys think? Do you guys play around with Polymarket or anything like that?
For me, I dibble and dabble. And when I say I dibble and dabble, I probably put like $2 in. And I don't bet on like the crazy stuff like, oh, will Trump attack Iran or something like that? Or
no aliens,
like
huh?
Yeah, or no aliens. Yeah. Will they find aliens by the end of 2026? You know, I think some of those bets are kind of comical. You know, and it's really comical they even exist. I do like sports bets, you know, or I do, bets that you can actually think realistically there's going to be an outcome. Honestly, even though I dibble and dabble in this way, I think the poly market is a total joke. It's a joke on American society because it's like we love gambling. It's like we love this idea of trying to predict what may or may not happen. We do know in our hearts of hearts that things are controlled, and the things that are controlled are out of the individual's control. Mm-hmm. So for an example, we might be betting, let's say that there's 1 million contracts. Trump will invade Cuba. Mm-hmm. Well, that's all up to Trump, and that's all up to his administration.
And Trump's going to have a bet on that right now.
Yep, exactly. And so that's the whole joke of it, right? It's like this, you know, if it gets up to millions of dollars, it's whoever has the complete control wins the money. Yep. So it's a complete joke, right? It reminds me of a lot of these in the crypto market, a lot of these altcoins that, they promise so much stuff, and your wager is up to your investment in the individual, you know, and thinking that how well they're going to take care of this altcoin. And most of them at the time that altcoins are really huge, most of them were taking the money and running. I mean, that's, it's a similar concept, you know. I got fooled in that. I was in cryptocurrency before it was big. And my anger with cryptocurrency was, even though like we didn't want regulation, we don't want cryptocurrency to be regulated, it needed to be regulated, because I can't tell you how many times my coins got stolen. I can't tell you how many times websites would pop up with a promise, and then they would just totally disappear with everybody's money. This is why some regulation is important, you know, because people like me that were just naive, they get taken. And so when we look at the poly market, this is one of those markets that has very low regulations, and anything can happen. I mean, we saw with Maduro what happened with that, and the soldier who put the bet and made $400,000, and everybody that lost money is like, oh, whoa, why? How did this happen? You know,
I mean, my man was just betting on himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, it's strange that we live in a time where it's like everybody's like, oh, the Matrix, everything's controlled, man. I'm going to bet on things that happen.
Right.
That's so true. That's 100% true, man. It's like, it's all a conspiracy. Earth is flat, and that whole rocket ship going to the moon is a joke. But let me make a bet the aliens are going to be here by 2026.
Well, it literally is the new get rich quick scheme. It really is. I mean, it plays upon, it depends upon rich kind of overpaid techie millennials who think this is a cool thing who's going to dump money into this. It literally is worse than selling the steak knives door to door or something like that.
It's all just trying to find the greater fool. Everyone thinks that they're smarter than everyone else and that they know something. They have a strategy that is better than everyone else's and that they're going to trick all the rubes. You guys don't know this about me, but I used to work at a casino. So I'm not unfamiliar with gambling and the sorts of people that probably shouldn't be gambling and all the sob stories about that you find. Being inside that industry, you see just how predatory it is. I go to casinos from time to time, not often, but the way I view it is like I could go downtown and go see a play or a musical or whatever and spend, $200 easy, $300 easy on an evening. That's fine. I go to the casino. I stay there all day. I maybe come out $200, $300 poorer. That's fine if you do that like once a season, once a month, once whatever your budget allows. It's just a night out. You spend less money at an NFL game, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's just a good night out. Well, that's not how casinos make their money. That's not how gambling markets make their money. They make their money on the people who are getting a second mortgage because they're due, right? Whether it's a casino, whether it's a futures market, they're preying on this idea that I'm going to be rich because I'm smarter than these other people. And they hype you up more than ChatGPT does, Like, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah, you think you should bet on, the Knicks to win? Great idea,
Yeah, and it's really taking advantage of Americans right now because, like, my mom and my wife both are always constantly like, man, we should go to the casino. That's the only way out of this. It's the only way we're going to get money.
Oh yeah, man.
That is a trap. That is a mental trap to put yourself in.
100%.
It breaks my heart because I've seen it a lot. We wouldn't need these things if the economy was better. People might not know this, but Polymarket is not a gambling site. Polymarket applied to be considered a futures trading market. Polymarket views itself more like a stock exchange than as a gambling site. And that is what they're using now to skirt these state laws that ban gambling in their states. It's a complete abuse of the system, in my opinion. I can't believe that they got approval to be a futures market. The difference isn't who is going to win, the Kansas City Chiefs or the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a bet. But a futures contract is, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs will win against the, what? No, it's a bet. A bet is a bet. Like,
right.
So I don't think that's going to get changed anytime soon because no state laws are able to attack it because it's a federal decision. Arizona just tried and failed because of that fact. They might be able to regulate someone like Kalshi because Kalshi, they are, as far as I'm aware, they are not a securities trading company. They have not been granted that status yet. But I assume that's coming soon because Donald Trump Jr. both sits as in an advisory role on both Kalshi and on the board of Polymarket. Mm-hmm. So you tell me what that looks like.
Right. Yeah. So
see, and that's one of the things, right? Like this is I don't mind sports on the poly market. It actually kind of makes no sense unless you are coming from a state that disallows this type of betting. Because with sports, here's the thing about it. NBA, we found out that there are people that bet against or they throw games, right? But they do get prosecuted. There is a rule of law in the NBA. There is a rule of law in the NFL or NHL. We know that. So we can say with some confidence that games will not be fixed, especially championship games. We can say that with some confidence. With other things that are in the futures market, we cannot say that. There's absolutely no regulation. There's absolutely no one that is standing guard and saying, hey, this outcome that you guys are doing is an intentional outcome to cheat bettors. It's not allowed. So that's one thing I have against the poly market, is that you guys do not have any sort of regulation, real regulation, when it comes to these type of bettings. I mean,
and I don't see any regulation coming, because I think they want it to remain unregulated.
Well, yeah,
a lot of powerful people are placing a lot of insider bets and are making a lot of money.
We talked about this a little bit before the show. Tim Pool with Timcast, he openly admits that they bet on it because Tim has seen that the topics on, he's got a huge podcast, and topics on his show, he is actually showing change in these markets according to what they talk about on the show. So yeah, Chris, and when you're like Tim and you can drop $10,000 on a bet, that's meaningful. It's not, Carvell betting a couple bucks. I don't condone gambling at all. I'm morally against it as a whole, but I don't think anybody that, like you're doing and go to the casino and put a couple bucks down on blackjack, like you said, Chris, that's a fun night out. I'm not going to think you're the worst person in the world for doing that. But I just, in this, where you have such control over significant events in the public, I just think everybody that gets on these futures markets, I just think are faking gay anyways. And that's because of how I think about money. To me, money has always been just a store of value. I mean, it originated so you wouldn't have to bring 5 cows with you to the market to exchange for a freaking sword and tunic. It was just, okay, I got coins and these represent the value of the cow. Money was never meant to be a vehicle for producing more money from that money. And that's why the economy is the way it is. And so that's why I just stay out of all this future betting, future markets, investing period. I don't like it. I think it's caused great damage to the economy. And if you really want to go into like some deep conspiratorial, just weird stuff. So back in the day, like thousands of years back in the day, when kings had their conjurers and their fortune tellers, the king would ask, when should I go to war? Well, the fortune tellers would get they had these day books where they had like all events recorded, and they would consult these books and they would look for like signs in the constellations, the weather, they would look at all these patterns and they'd say, this is a good day because when people go to war around this time, they seem to be successful. This time they don't. And to me, these betting markets, future markets, whatever you want to call them, that's kind of like a modern day version of fortune telling. And really, even worse than that, the powers that be are using it to predict the future because you're the one who's writing the future for them. So they know.
That's another thing that I don't particularly like. Polymarket. People use Polymarket like it's a survey, like it.
Well, yeah, they called the last election basically.
Did they like?
Really?
Because this irks me, and I've gotten into discussions about this. Polymarket is not a replacement for a properly done statistical survey. Mm-hmm. Like all Polymarket says is who you think other people are going to bet against, right? Like it's not even you think the outcome's going to be that. You just want to catch in on like the long shot bet. 2016, remember when Trump had like a 2% chance to win against Hillary at the very end, and it was a guaranteed bet that Hillary was going to win in 2016?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know what? Like if Polymarket had existed at that time, I bet Polymarket would have been closer to 50-50 because the odds of Trump winning would have paid out so much that you would have had more people jumping on that bandwagon to get rich quick, right? They're not predictors of the outcome of the thing. They're predictors of what people think other people are thinking. So you can't use it like that.
So what is in you guys' opinion, we'll see if you got the right answer. What is the most valuable resource right now in all the world, the most valuable resource?
People.
Power.
I would say, and most people say it's data. And that's what you're essentially giving over to these companies. And So there you go. I mean,
data on your thoughts, data on the things that aren't publicly known. That is the most valuable data.
So do you remember there was I know Carvell, you don't watch it, but you're up north. Chris, maybe you being in Kentucky, but King of the Hill in one of the later seasons had an episode where they were watching what Bill does. You know, Bill's the big fat guy, kind of the everyman of the show. And they were watching what he would buy and purchase, and then they would go to the stock market and invest according to what Bill was buying. And it was absolutely like the whole theme of the episode is how immoral that was. And then Bill got roped into it and like loses his house or something like that. But anyways, that's kind of what you're doing right now. I mean, you're kind of betting on people and swaying the way public discourse goes because of this.
It would be like if, say, somebody made a bet that on Easter Sunday that Trump would post on Truth Social, "Praise be to Allah." You know, that's a pretty low chance, right? He's a good Christian leader, right? Like, there's no way he would ever do that. Oh, but he might if somebody would get $500,000 off of that bet, which did happen.
So you're saying it can be a vehicle for money laundering, huh?
It's absolutely a vehicle for money laundering. Why can't
we just sell art like Hunter Biden did?
No, I didn't think about money laundering. That's actually a really good point. That's a really good way to money launder.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a really good way.
And you can do it for yourself, because I don't know all the ins and outs and the particulars of it, but wasn't there a guy who, like, of course, it's a pretty common bet. They bet that there would be a streaker at one of the football games, and he like cashed in a huge bet on it, and then he did it himself.
Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
And as far as I know, they couldn't prosecute him for it. So,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I know. Yeah, what are we doing?
I mean, it's not a bet. It's not a bet. It's a futures contract, right? Like in a futures contract, if like in a traditional futures contract, right, where you're saying that you think the price of wheat is going to be more than $12. Well, you know, if you don't make a lot of wheat that year or whatever, and there's a shortage and the price goes up, did you manipulate it? Kind of not. You know, you didn't control what other people did, because in a traditional gambling site, you can't influence the outcome. But if it's a futures market, why wouldn't you be able to influence the outcome? Guys, have you heard about the Bets Off Act?
Nope. No, I haven't.
So the Banning Event Trading on Sensitive Operations in Federal Functions Act, bets off, because they love their acronyms. It's legislation to ban wagering on government actions, terrorism, war, assassination, and in events where an individual knows or controls the outcome. All of these, you know, Democrat representatives are basically they're seeing with their eyes that the Trump administration is really abusing these Polymarket bets, and they want it to stop. Now, would they have wanted it to stop if, like, Hunter Biden wasn't doing all this shit? You know.
But like I said, he's selling art. That's a completely different thing.
But like, you know what I mean. But like, you know, whatever. It is a thing that needs to happen.
Yes.
You know, bets off. I 100% am in support of, mostly because I just don't like these online gambling sites in general. I think they're way too predatory. I honestly think there should be caps on these bets, to be honest. You shouldn't lose your house over betting. Like, something should prevent you from betting your house, in my opinion. But then, if that was the case, then, you know, casinos wouldn't exist. These betting markets wouldn't exist, because they only exist to take advantage of the addicts. They are no different than drug dealers, in my opinion.
The libertarian argument would be you got to be able to, if you want to wager your house, you can. But
that's
like you're
stupid.
saying,
libertarians are dumb.
Well, yeah, they are. They are. Definitely acknowledging that. But like you're saying, it's an addiction. So you don't let people, theoretically, you use drugs because of that. You certainly don't encourage it. So I don't see the difference.
I'm kind of the opinion that you can do what you want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, but if you're hurting yourself, you need to stop.
Mm-hmm. So this is something I didn't know. Maybe I was just naive, but the Polymarket is actually a company. I didn't know that. Probably something I should have mentioned a while ago. I should have brought up. I didn't know that. I just thought it was just like like a
separate market,
like S&P 500 or something like that, which is really not.
You thought like it was like, we're just a marketplace that allows these bets to take place.
Whatever.
There's nothing wrong with that. I bet there's a lot of people that didn't know that. But yeah, and what'd you say, Chris? It's called the bets off.
Bets off
Act.
Act.
Yeah, that's so kind of like I was with the Save Act. Even if it's not perfect, let's get it in place and we can fine tune it. And I'm kind of taking the same approach here, but it seems like there's some loopholes carved out in it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't ban the events contracts at all. It just bans specific ones that have very dangerous ramifications.
Right, and that's a good start, but I could see where there's a lot of gray area that could be wiggled around, and I'm kind of thinking that might be intentional. To me, if you're in government, you shouldn't own stock. You shouldn't be able to invest. You certainly shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be able to make money off of anything that's happening in society.
I think you should be allowed a blind trust. Like, if you are not in control of it, like, there's no reason not to allow a blind trust.
Yeah, but how do you know that information isn't changing hands, beneficial information?
I mean, I might have to agree with
you. Keep records, and if the records don't exist, that's a violation, and then the violations incur fines.
I might have to agree with Matt on this one. I'm not saying that you're wrong in any way, Chris, but you think about it right now, like, all of Washington is run by lobbyists, people who have money, big donors, and all that stuff. And you see, it's actually you didn't think it was possible, but it's getting more and more corrupt. And a lot of it's because money. People have ways and means of making money, and in reality, the average Joe like us, it's hard for us to win elections because just the way the system is set up. It's all about money these days. And these politicians, they get into these seats and they get into these offices and they come out multi-millionaires, richer, like just stupid rich. And, it's an incentive to hold that position, not only to make money, but it's to have power, So I don't know. It's starting to get much more ridiculous, and
Carvell,
you can see it all play out.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on the money is the number one barrier to getting guys like us elected. From personal experience, it's not as much the money as it's the ballot access. The ballot access and the restrictions on ballot access are what keep people from having the options to have third parties. Money helps with ballot access, so you can make it a money thing, but you wouldn't need as much money if you had better ballot access.
Well, no, that's the whole thing about it, right? Like, I was sitting in a random Panera Bread, right? And just minding my own business, and there was a gentleman, he was probably poor, but he approached me and he talked to me about, and I forget the gentleman's name that wanted to be put on the ballot. But the thing about it is that the people who have money, which you can't get mad at them for having money, right? But the people that have money, they have the opportunity to hire these individuals, hundreds of them, go out, get people to sign so they can put on this ballot, and then they can get on the ballot and they can get on TV and they can lie to us, they can swindle us, whatever, just to make more money or just to do whatever. And that's just how it is. This is how like the political culture is. So when I say average Joes like us, I'm not saying in the sense that we don't have the opportunity or we can't like necessarily get ballot access, whatever. I'm just saying a lot of this is the haves and have not. And if you have money and if you have the resources, you're able to do things that individuals like me aren't able really to do as easily. Mm-hmm. And, that's the whole idea of it,
What do you think the party's position is on Polymarket? Do we love Polymarket? Do we hate it? Are we indifferent towards it? Do you think the party would be in approval of the Bets Off Act?
I'm positive that our party hates the Polymarket more than AI. But I'm sure the party does not like the Polymarket. I would guarantee at least 80% of the people in the party would be like, the Polymarket is a bit of a joke. I don't know if they would go out of their way to like stop it. I don't know if it's be something on our party platform.
I think that's an interesting question. I actually don't know. Like, I could see this being a 50-50 issue. I don't really know.
Would you be willing to take out a futures contract on whether that's
Hell no.
we could set our own WHI contract, WHI Polymarket.
I don't know how many people would use that technicality. I think within the party that gambling's probably looked down upon, but who's going to capitalize on there being the technicality of futures to kind of circumvent that morally in their head? I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe we should put a poll or something out on the voting members page about that, because I honestly couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Matt, the way I perceive it, right, is the Polymarket is in no way a threat to the ASP. It's not going to threat it. Like, we're not going to go out of our way and say like Polymarket is horrible, because there's no way in this world that we have to interact with it every single day. However, AI is different. So that's why people are like, a lot of people are against AI, and some of us are for AI. But the Polymarket is kind of like how we can see, in a sense, gambling, right? It
would be a bad selling point, though, because most, especially young men, essentially, like you're saying, Carvell, especially with sports, they're utilizing this. A lot of young men are hoping this is their rags to riches story. So if we did put a plank in the platform about futures markets, I don't know, that might drive away potential voters.
I think that the vast majority of people in the party, probably like 80%, are pretty unaware of this topic. This just doesn't seem to be too much of of the party's wheelhouse traditionally. I bet we don't really have a very strong opinion either way, like you were saying, Matt. I do think if pressed, most people would probably be against it, like you said, Carvell. But I just don't think it's a very minor issue. But again, it's an important issue because it's affecting young men disproportionately who are looking to get rich. It's a predatory practice, no different than drug dealing, in my opinion. It preys on addiction, and it has the potential for a lot of insider trading, insider gambling, a lot of abuse in that regard with people in power and authority, and that's definitely something that the party's against. So hopefully more people become aware of it and look this up after this episode, because I do think this is an important issue.
And people don't tie it into the larger picture. I'm sure a lot of people, like we were saying earlier, this is just a fun way to unwind, bet a couple of bucks. It's a form of entertainment, but this is a symptom of something much larger, because you're seeing that it's like the economy. Unfortunately, we do have a two income household kind of setup here, and it's almost like we've realized Americans can't make it where, a husband and a wife working, that those two jobs aren't enough to make it. The economy's messed up, it's broken. And instead of saying, well, let's fix it, it's like, here's a Band-Aid, go do OnlyFans, go bet on futures markets, get, this side hustle, make the next app. Hell, we're doing it right now. Make a podcast, become an influencer, go out there at the fart machine and run around Walmart bothering people and put it on YouTube. So like I said, this is something that maybe the party does need to, maybe we should bring this up, because this is something we need to think about, because I see this as being a way of trying to Band-Aid a broken economy and a broken system that's not working. Well, again, guys, thank you for tuning in to the We Have Issues podcast. Quite a big topic. See, we got at the end there, we weren't even really sure about what was going on with it. So please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know, do you play into Polymarket? Do you put your money into this kind of thing? Do you think it's absolutely a bad idea? Let us know what you think. Remember, you can find us on X, Rumble, Spotify, Facebook, TikTok. We're all over the place. Go like and subscribe to all those pages. We much appreciate it. I'm Matt.
I'm Carvell.
And I'm Chris.